Hey everybody, I noticed that I'm starting to get some views on the Facebook group, and so that's because I changed the title of the Facebook group to back to Stigma Games, and so people are starting to view it. It's trying to go, okay, what's happening? I'm sure Facebook is sending notices to people that stuff is going on. So I thought I would talk a little bit about why Stigma Games on Facebook is why I'm doing stuff with it. So I decided to start making games again. Now, let me tell you a little bit about my life story, and I'll tell you the history of Stigma Games, why Stigma Games failed, and why I'm spinning it back up again. So, my life story. I was born 8 pounds, 6 ounces. Just kidding. So, I made my first video game when I was 12, 13, 14, somewhere around there. It was a dumb Space Invaders clone that I made on my Apple IIe. That's how old I am. And I wrote it in BASIC, which cracks me up. There's an episode of Stranger Things when the guy has to go into the scary lab with all the scary things and say, well, because I'm a programmer. Yeah, but do you know BASIC? Yes, I do. Yeah, so I knew BASIC really well when I was like 14, was making my own video games and was doing my own computer graphics and stuff, and really into computers. I got pulled into the family construction business, laying brick, which I didn't want to do, and then I became a musician, and didn't come back to anything related to any of that until I went from construction to doing 3D modeling for architectural companies, doing conceptual rendering. So I knew how to code, I knew how to do 3D art. I was really into using Poser and Daz 3D and doing character modeling and rigging and doing 3D animation. And so I decided that I really wanted to write lore for video games. And I applied to a bunch of game companies. Not nowhere, because who wants to hire a lore designer? I went to college, got a bachelor's degree in anthropology to really understand how to put together cultures for fantasy games and whatnot. I realized that no one was hiring for that, so what I thought I would do is get a job as a programmer in the gamer industry and then move. So I'd get a job sitting next to the person who had the job I actually wanted, and then I'd transition to being a lore designer, and so that didn't work. Then I decided that if I could, so I was working towards getting a second bachelor's degree in computer science, when it occurred to me I could start volunteering for other projects because people didn't have money and were doing game projects. So I volunteered for this project called Origins of Malu, which they didn't have a name for it. They didn't have any lore figured out for it at all. It was this MMO, and I named the planet that it took place on, Malu. I named the language, the naming conventions for stuff, the culture of the people. I started working all that out, and I was doing a massive amount of work for this project. This would have been like 2014 or so, and I was doing all this work, and I was getting all this resistance from the people, and there was a lot of really talented people on this team. It was like 30 people. Really, really talented artists, programmers, etc., trying to make this MMO. And they said to me that they're putting roadblocks in front of me on purpose. And I was baffled by that. I said, why would you slow me down on purpose? And they said, because you've done so much work in writing the lore for this game that we feel like it's not our game anymore, like we're making your game for you. And then it occurred to me, oh, I need to do my own thing then. That's what's going on. And so it was right around that time that I was producing a band that was recording at this one audio production college, and they were talking to me about how they have all these students that want to work on games, but there's nothing happening in Sacramento. And so it occurred to me I could start my own game project in Sacramento, recruit local talents from different colleges, and put together games, and that would be awesome. And I'm talking really fast because I know these long videos and there's a lot that I want to get off my chest, and so I'm going to try and talk fast through this. And so I put together Stigma Games and recruited from all these different colleges and started working on making an MMO. And I spent so much time recruiting, and I recruited, I would say, about 200 people during the course of Stigma Games. And I spent so much time recruiting and not working on the game, not working on any games, and then when it became obvious that people just weren't going to do the work. They weren't going to learn how to code. They weren't going to learn the engine we're using, the Hero engine, which is a great engine for making MMOs. They didn't want to learn the Hero engine. They didn't want to do all the things needed to make it happen. It was too big a project, and so it failed. And I said, okay, well, let's make smaller projects. So then we started working on Granny Wars and Elemental Lords and Reagan Rocket Ship and Monster Balls. And those all started failing for different reasons. And eventually, everybody in the team quit. I decided I just couldn't recruit any more people. I was just done trying to do that. And so I took the team. We had about 8 people. We had 2 programmers. We had a technical artist. We had a character artist. We had a character animator. We had a sound designer, and we had me doing environmental 3D art. Oh, we had Alan Perez, who was doing graphic arts, who did a lot of really cool art for Elemental Lords. We also had somebody else who came in and did some particle effects for like a week and then left. And so once I had stopped recruiting and I had just started working on the game, so we were all in on Elemental Lords, and we even went to a recording studio. We recorded some voice actors who did a really awesome job recording the voices for Elemental Lords. It was kind of funny to play this game and have your opponents taunting you and making fun of you as you're beating them or losing to them. And we had playtesters, so we're renting out a physical studio, and we had playtesters come in and playtest the game. And it seemed like once, like I said, most of the team was gone, and we could just focus on just making games. Our progress just shot up, and we were just doing really, really well. The problem was we're getting close to finishing Elemental Lords, and the game just wasn't very fun. It was okay, but I just didn't think I didn't enjoy playing it. I don't feel like anyone really enjoyed playing it. It was basically Breakout. So you had a paddle and you were blocking balls and protecting your base. And you could do cool spells and turn your ball into different elements like fire and lightning and so. But I feel like no one really thought the game was fun. And we could release it on what? Steam? I mean, nobody wants to play Steam games with a controller, a 4-person game. So it just kind of fell apart. I was heavily in debt. I was renting out a studio on my credit card. I wasn't working, and so I got a part-time job at the Golden One Center, which is where the Sacramento Kings play. The building had just opened up. I got just a generic IT job there, and I was working part-time, trying to pay off my credit card bills, living with my parents at the time, and finally Stigma Games was just done. So I shut the doors, kept paying down my credit card bill, and when I worked at the Golden One Center, my job was just to go around fixing printers and cash registers and just generic IT stuff, making sure the network was working correctly and all that. And the way that we were streaming video content through the arena to the digital menu boards, I thought was just really bad. The way that they were doing the menu boards was horribly inefficient. And so I said to my boss and my boss's boss, you know, I could write code, I could build an app that would make the menu boards really easy to use. So like, hit one button and it took alcohol off, you know, because we have alcohol shut off after the third quarter. Hit one button, it takes all the alcohol off all the menu boards. You want to add a menu board item and set the price, you could do that on your phone. I could totally build all of that. And they said, really? If you could build that, we would take your little part-time job, make it a full-time job, give you a raise, and then you could do that. And I did do that. And so the app worked really, really well. It did all kinds of crazy stuff. Like I could set a stand to close, it would do this cool artwork for being closed, and it would print out it would pull from the database which stands were still open, and it would say, if you want pizza, you can go here, here, here. It would cycle through shots of food of different concession stands. And so I could set a stand to open up at certain times. I could set stands to do just like all kinds of crazy stuff. And I did all the artwork for it. And it attracted the attention of a company in Silicon Valley that wanted to do the same thing for arenas. And this was a big company. And so I said, all right, cool. I was done making video games. I wanted a conventional 9-to-5 job that I could count on. I wanted to raise a family. I'm getting up there in age. I still want to raise a family and have a nice conventional job. Games, I always wanted to make video games. I mean, I didn't mention that I used to try and get game design stuff done for Dungeons & Dragons, and Dungeons & Dragons eventually paid me to do work for them. So I've been a game programmer. I took C++ in college, and so I know how to code. I've been a professional game designer. I've been a professional 3D artist. I've been a professional musician. I'm a published author. And so I feel like I know how to do all the things in a game. It's just hard to convince game companies to hire me. But I was like, you know, I'm even to the point where I don't even want that. I just want a nice conventional job. Don't want to do games anymore. Nice conventional job that I can count on. Maybe I'll do, I don't know, something for fun in the future. And so I was making good money at the Golden One Center. So much to where I even spent $3,000 and bought a motion capture suit, which to this day I've still never taken out of the box. I spent $1,000 getting motion capture gloves so I could do finger fan animations. Still never taken that out of the box either. And right around that time, the Silicon Valley company hired me, and so I moved to the Bay Area. So I don't live in Sacramento anymore. And so I moved to the Bay Area, and that company sent me to sports arenas all around the country to build digital menu board systems for other sports arenas. But yeah, they flew me all around for 2.5 years, and then COVID happened. And at first, sports arenas were like, great, we finally have some downtime. We can get all this work done. And so I was busier than ever. And that lasted until it became clear that the sports arenas weren't going to open back up. And the ones that were, they thought it would come roaring back, but it didn't. And so my company laid me off, which was fine because the bulk of their business came from broadcasting, not from sports arenas. So laying me off wasn't that big a deal to them. But now I was in the Bay Area with really, really high rent, and and just as the IT system was collapsing, 2/3 of all jobs were eliminated in the last 4 years, and so my life was really tough here. And I had met this really cool lady that I really kind of dug, and here I was unemployed, and I didn't want to leave the Bay Area, and rent was really high, and so her and I moved into a smaller place that she could afford from just her job. And I got a job at some warehouse, just doing dumb grunt work because I was willing to take anything at that point. And after about a month of working there, my daughter was born, and so I'm now a father. And when maternity leave for my girlfriend wore off, well, I had to take care of my daughter during the day, and my company, this warehouse that I worked at, was super cool, and they let me come in the evenings to graveyard shift and help put away all the gear and stuff. And so we did that for about a year or so, and then finally my company said, yeah, this is all cool and all, but we can't do this anymore. You have to go back to working during the day. Well, I couldn't work during the day because I was watching my baby. And so they parted ways with me, and they felt bad about it, so they bought me lunch after they had parted ways with me. I came back in, and they got to meet my daughter, who's walking now. And I told them the news that my girlfriend's pregnant again, so I'm going to have a second child. And I know I keep saying girlfriend because I'm going to marry her. It's on my to-do list, but I want to get my finances right. But right now, my pregnant girlfriend, is able to support us, and I feel like a deadbeat for having to rely on her to pay our bills. But so my daughter's napping right now, so I'm making this video really quick. But it occurred to me, if I have to stay home and watch now 2 kids, what do I know how to do that can generate some income so we can move out of this tiny place? We don't like it here. I mean, it's not a bad part of, we live in San Mateo, which is not a bad part of town. It's a good part of town, but it's small. It's a 2-bedroom place that we have, but it's small. And I thought, well, I know how to do video games. And I had been keeping an eye on Unreal Engine and how awesome metahumans are, how all the things that Unreal Engine does now. And I have been going, man, I want to learn that stuff. Man, I really want to get back into the game. And I've seen people, solo game developers, what they're able to do by themselves and the kind of games they're able to make. And of course, if you're not making games, what does your brain do? Your brain generates game ideas. So I have all these game ideas that I want to do, and so I've decided to get back into it. And when my baby's asleep and my girlfriend's asleep, I'm going to be on my computer, and I have been learning Unreal Engine really well, and I have been working on a horror game that I'm calling Escape from Grimwood High. And the idea for Escape from Grimwood High is that you play as this guy named Tom, this student named Tom, and Tom is not sure if he's losing his mind, if he's hallucinating, demons are taking over the school, or if demons are actually taking over the school. And you, as playing as Tom, will have to figure it out. And so I'm still learning the engine as I'm building the game, but I am hoping to release this game. I'll keep sending updates. The goal is to release it by the time my son is born, which will be in March. But that's what I'm up to. So what are you guys up to? No, so that's that's what I'm up to. That's the updates, and hopefully I'll have more to show and post on this channel soon. All right.